Ladies and gentlemen, when life gets difficult, most people instinctively ask, "Why is this happening to me?" They focus on the event, the problem, the setback. But the truth is that adversity is not optional, it's inevitable. Everyone will face challenges, some more severe than others. The difference between those who rise and those who remain stuck lies in their response, not their circumstances. This is the foundation of personal growth. It is not the storm that shapes the sailor. It is how the sailor navigates the storm that determines their journey. The key to developing resilience and inner strength lies in accepting that hardship is not a punishment. It's a natural part of the human experience. Challenges are not a deviation from the path. They are the path. If you wait for life to get easier before you decide to become stronger, you will be waiting forever. Life won't slow down for your comfort. But what can change is how you meet it. Your response is where all your power lies. That is the one thing that always remains within your control, even when everything else seems chaotic. When things start falling apart, when plans fail, people leave, or your health takes a hit, you can't always stop the wave from crashing, but you can learn to surf it. This isn't about pretending the pain isn't real. It's about deciding that you will not allow the pain to dictate your future. It's about saying to yourself, I may not control what happens, but I will control what I do with it. That shift in mindset, though simple in theory, is monumental in practice. Think of the people who have gone through devastating losses, financial ruin, or personal betrayal, and still found a way to rise. They weren't lucky. They weren't immune to the pain. They simply made a decision to respond with intention instead of reaction. Reaction is emotional, impulsive, and often destructive. Intention is deliberate, thoughtful, and growth-oriented. Your response can either be the beginning of your downfall or the catalyst for your comeback. Even in psychology, there's a principle called cognitive reframing, the ability to look at a situation from a different angle. It teaches that it's not the event itself that breaks you, but the meaning you assign to it. If you see adversity as a message that you're not good enough, you will retreat and shrink. But if you interpret it as a sign that you're being refined, sharpened, and prepared for more, you will rise with every fall. Your narrative, your interpretation, and your response will define your trajectory. In times of difficulty, you also discover what you truly value. Comfort often distracts us, but pain clarifies. When things go wrong, you're forced to focus on what really matters. That focus can become the fire that drives you. You might learn who your true friends are, what habits are holding you back, or what beliefs you need to let go of. That awareness can become a powerful tool for transformation, if you're willing to respond, not run. Responding also means taking responsibility, not for what happened, but for what you do next. Responsibility is not the same as blame. It's not about pointing fingers at yourself or others. It's about saying, this is my life, these are my choices, and even if I didn't cause this, I still get to decide how I grow from it. That mindset is the difference between staying a victim and becoming a victor. Over time, you begin to realize that some of the hardest moments in your life were the ones that shaped your character the most. You didn't ask for the struggle, but you grew from it. You didn't want the pain, but you built strength because of it. You didn't choose the storm, but you became the kind of person who can handle one. That's the power of your response. It can turn wounds into wisdom and pressure into purpose. So when the going gets hard, pause. Breathe, remind yourself that while adversity is inevitable, your response is a choice. That choice will shape your identity, your future, and ultimately your legacy. Don't waste your energy trying to control what you can't. Focus instead on mastering the one thing that will always be yours, your response. Because that's where your true power begins. When you're facing something difficult, whether it's a personal crisis, a professional failure, or just a season of life that feels heavier than usual, it's easy to believe that the battle is happening outside of you. It feels like the problem is your situation, or the people involved, or the circumstances that seem unfair. But in reality, the real war is happening within your own mind. Your thoughts shape your actions, your mood, your energy, and ultimately your future. That's why mastering your mindset is not just a motivational phrase. It's a survival skill. The moment you understand that your mind is the true battlefield, everything changes. Your brain is constantly interpreting what happens around you. Every moment, it's processing information, making judgments, attaching meaning to events, and crafting stories about what things mean. When life gets hard, your thoughts tend to spiral. I can't handle this. It's always like this. What's the point of trying? These thoughts might feel automatic, but they are not facts. They're perceptions, reactions driven by habit, fear, and past conditioning. And if you don't interrupt them, they will become the reality you live in. Most people don't realize that their inner dialogue becomes their default belief system. Think about that. The words you say silently to yourself over and over become the lens through which you see your entire life. If your inner voice is filled with doubt, fear, and hopelessness, then even small challenges will feel insurmountable. But if your inner voice is trained to focus on solutions, growth, and resilience, you can face even the biggest obstacles with strength. It doesn't mean you won't feel pain. It means you won't be ruled by it. This is why discipline of the mind is essential. Just like your body needs exercise to stay strong, your mind needs daily training. If you don't choose what to focus on, your mind will focus on whatever is easy. It's usually fear, doubt, or worst case scenarios. The human brain is wired to protect you from danger, so it naturally scans for threats. But in modern life, those threats often take the form of rejection, failure, or uncertainty. Your brain isn't trying to hurt you. It's trying to keep you safe. But safety isn't the goal, growth is. And growth requires you to step outside your comfort zone, to face fears, to challenge assumptions, and to override the default settings of your mind. Every time you choose to stay calm instead of panicking, to reflect instead of reacting, to learn instead of blaming, you are training your mind. And each of those moments adds up. They might seem small, but they are powerful, because every habit of thought becomes a habit of behavior, and your behavior shapes your results. When you're in a difficult season, the most important thing you can do is protect your mental environment. What you consume, who you talk to, what you read, what you repeat to yourself, it all matters. If you feed your mind negativity, complaints, and excuses, your strength will erode. But if you feed it with truth, learning, and positive reinforcement, it will grow sharper and stronger. That's why mindset work is not optional during hard times. It's the foundation of your survival. It's not just about thinking positively. It's about thinking powerfully. You need to become aware of your self-talk. Catch the patterns. Notice when you're catastrophizing, assuming failure, or falling into hopelessness. Then challenge those thoughts. Ask yourself, is this true? Is this helpful? Is this the mindset I need to move forward? Because when your thoughts are aligned with fear, your actions will reflect that. But when your thoughts are aligned with purpose and discipline, your actions become strategic and focused, even under pressure. It's also important to realize that mindset isn't about ignoring problems. It's about approaching them with clarity and strength. You don't need to pretend everything is fine. What you need is to tell yourself, even if it's not fine now, I'm capable of handling this, I'm learning, I'm adapting, I'm growing through this. That kind of mental framing doesn't remove pain. It gives pain a purpose. It helps you move from victim mode into warrior mode. The greatest victories are often not visible. They happen quietly when no one is watching, in the space between your thoughts and your decisions. They happen when you choose to believe in a better outcome, even when there's no evidence yet. They happen when you override fear with faith in your ability to endure and improve. Winning the battle in your mind doesn't mean you'll never struggle again. It means you'll be ready for the next challenge when it comes, and it will come. The mind is the command center of your life. Protect it. Train it, discipline it, because when everything around you feels unstable, your mindset becomes your anchor. If your mind is strong, you are strong. And no matter how difficult the external world becomes, you'll carry the one thing that always gives you an edge: the power to respond with clarity, courage, and control. Pain is one of the most misunderstood experiences in life. Most people see it as something to avoid, something negative, something that gets in the way of happiness or success. But pain, in its truest form, is not the enemy. It's a messenger. It tells you something is wrong, something needs attention, something needs to change. If you look closely, you'll realize that many of your most meaningful breakthroughs were born from moments of pain. Growth doesn't come when everything is easy. It comes when life challenges you, pushes you, stretches you beyond your limits. And pain is often the very tool that life uses to initiate that transformation. The problem is that we've been conditioned to fear pain, to resist discomfort, to run from anything that feels hard or unfamiliar. But in doing so, we run from growth. We run from the very experiences that shape our character, build our resilience, and teach us what we're truly capable of. Pain is not there to destroy you, it's there to reveal you. It uncovers weaknesses you didn't know existed, but also strengths you never imagined you had. The discomfort you feel in moments of failure, rejection, or heartbreak can either become the weight that crushes you or the pressure that forms you into something stronger. There's a lesson in every painful experience, but you have to be willing to lean in and listen. Avoiding pain might bring temporary relief, but it also brings long-term stagnation. Growth begins the moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" That shift in mindset changes everything. It transforms suffering into strength, hardship into fuel, and setbacks into stepping stones. Pain doesn't show up in your life by accident. It's there for a reason, and if you ignore it or numb it, you miss the message it's trying to deliver. Some of the most powerful people in the world, the ones who lead, inspire, and uplift others, are not the ones who have had it easy. They're the ones who have been through the fire and chose to come out refined rather than defeated. They allowed pain to educate them. They used it as a mirror to examine their thoughts, behaviors, and choices. Instead of letting it make them bitter, they let it make them better. That's a choice everyone has, but few make, because facing pain requires courage. It requires honesty. It demands that you stop blaming others or circumstances and start looking inward. When you stop running from pain and start embracing it as a teacher, you begin to notice how much it reveals about your inner world. It shows you where your boundaries are, where your fears lie, where your values are strongest. Pain is clarifying. It strips away the noise and distractions and forces you to pay attention to what really matters. It breaks illusions, humbles your ego, and puts you in direct contact with the raw, real parts of yourself that you often ignore. And in that space, where everything feels exposed, is also where transformation begins. Every time you go through something painful and survive it, you build a deeper level of trust in yourself. You realize you're capable of withstanding more than you thought. You become more grounded, more focused, more determined. And that inner strength doesn't go away when the pain subsides. It stays with you. It becomes part of your identity. You start to understand that pain isn't just an obstacle to overcome. It's part of your evolution. You don't grow in spite of pain, you grow because of it. Pain also cultivates empathy. When you've been through difficult seasons, you become more compassionate toward others. You understand suffering on a deeper level. You connect with people not through perfection, but through shared vulnerability. That connection creates meaning. It deepens your relationships. It opens your heart. In this way, pain not only strengthens you, it humanizes you. It makes you a better leader, friend, parent, and partner. This doesn't mean you have to like pain. It doesn't mean you have to seek it out or pretend it doesn't hurt. Pain is real. It stings. It breaks you open. But the goal is not to glorify pain, it's to respect it, to recognize its role, to understand that while pain may not be pleasant, it can be purposeful, and when you meet it with the right mindset, it becomes a force that works for you, not against you. The next time you find yourself in a painful situation, pause before you resist. Ask yourself, what is this showing me about myself? What do I need to learn here? What strength is being called out of me right now? That level of awareness transforms pain from something to escape into something to learn from. And the more you do this, the more resilient you become, not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. So don't run from pain, don't ignore it, don't numb it, sit with it, study it, allow it to shape you, guide you, and ultimately elevate you. Pain is not the enemy, it's the process, and through it, you become the person you were always meant to be. Progress often disguises itself. It doesn't always announce its arrival with dramatic changes or obvious wins. In fact, real progress is usually invisible while it's happening. You won't always feel it, and you certainly won't always see it. This is why persistence is so important, because the process of growth often looks like nothing is happening. You keep showing up, you keep trying, you keep putting in the effort, and still, the results don't come immediately. That's when most people quit. Not because they can't succeed, but because they can't see the success that's already unfolding beneath the surface. In the early stages of any journey, whether it's building a career, developing discipline, overcoming fear, or healing from something painful, it often feels like walking in the dark. You don't have proof that your actions are making a difference. You don't have evidence that you're getting better. All you have is the effort itself. That's why persistence matters more than motivation. Motivation is based on emotion. It comes and goes. But persistence is a decision. It's the choice to continue even when the feelings fade, even when the results are delayed, even when doubt creeps in. Every time you take action in the face of discouragement, you are building something deeper than results. You're building character. You're strengthening your identity. And over time, that identity starts to change how you see yourself. You're no longer someone who only works hard when things are easy. You become someone who keeps going when things are hard. That consistency creates an inner confidence that can't be shaken by temporary failure or external setbacks. You begin to trust yourself, not because you always win, but because you always continue. What many people miss is that small actions, done repeatedly, lead to exponential growth. The impact of effort compounds. The workout you don't skip, the page you write when you feel uninspired, the conversation you have instead of avoiding it. All of those small choices build momentum, and it's that momentum, not perfection, that moves you forward. Most breakthroughs happen long after the point where most people give up. The ones who succeed aren't always the most talented or the most intelligent. They are often just the most persistent. They stayed in the game long enough to win it. The hardest part of persistence is that you rarely get applause for it. You don't get congratulated for sticking to your plan when no one is watching. You don't get immediate validation for the progress you're making. But this is actually an advantage, because it forces you to rely on something stronger than praise. It forces you to rely on purpose. When your reason for continuing is rooted in purpose, not performance, you build endurance that can outlast failure, rejection, and fatigue. Purpose-driven persistence is the engine of transformation. It's important to recognize that temporary failure is not a sign to quit. It's a sign to learn. Every setback has information. Every delay is an opportunity to refine your approach. But you only get those lessons if you stay in motion. Persistence is not about doing the same thing over and over without thinking. It's about showing up consistently and adapting intelligently. It's about adjusting your method without abandoning your mission. That's how you stay in the game long enough to win. You also need to understand that emotional resistance is part of the process. There will be days when everything in you wants to give up. You'll be tired, disappointed, and disheartened. That's normal, but those days are also the most important. Because what you do when you don't feel like it is what defines you. That's when your commitment is tested and strengthened. If you only work when it's convenient, your results will be inconsistent. But if you persist through discomfort, you earn the kind of progress that's unshakable. The real victory is not in the outcome, it's in the process. It's in knowing that you didn't back down when things got hard. It's in becoming someone who honors their goals, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. That is where growth lies. That is where strength is developed. And that is where lasting progress is made. So even if you feel like nothing's working, even if you're tired of repeating the same steps without visible results, don't stop. Your persistence is the seed, and just like any seed, it takes time to break through the soil. But once it does, the growth is unstoppable. Trust the process. Keep going. Progress is already happening. You just have to stay long enough to see it. The conversations you have with yourself shape the way you see the world and your place in it. While most people focus on what others say to them, the voice that has the greatest influence is the one inside their own mind. Self-talk is the constant, ongoing dialogue you have with yourself every day. Thoughts, statements, beliefs, judgments. And whether you realize it or not, that voice is either building you up or breaking you down. It's either expanding your capacity or shrinking your confidence. If you want to grow stronger, more disciplined, more resilient, it starts with mastering that internal dialogue. Your brain is always listening. When you say, "I'm not good enough," your brain takes it as a command and begins looking for evidence to support that claim. When you say, "I always mess things up," your mind begins filtering your experiences to reinforce that belief. This becomes a self-fulfilling loop. Your negative self-talk reinforces negative emotions, which produce negative behaviors, which in turn reinforce the original negative belief. The cycle continues until it becomes a pattern so familiar, it feels like truth. But it's not truth, it's programming, and what's programmed can be reprogrammed. Changing yourself is not about lying to yourself or pretending that everything is perfect. It's about learning to speak with intention and awareness. When you become conscious of your inner dialogue, you begin to notice how often you criticize yourself, how quickly you assume failure, how easily you discount your worth. Those thoughts may seem small, but they carry enormous weight. Over time, they create your self-image, and your self-image is the foundation of every action you take. If you believe you're weak, you won't push through difficulty. If you believe you're incapable, you won't take on new challenges. But if you believe you can adapt, improve, and overcome, you will. This is why it's essential to build the habit of constructive, empowering self-talk. You must start replacing phrases like "I can't" with "I will learn." Replace "I'm stuck" with "I'm figuring it out." Instead of saying "this is too hard," try "this is a chance to grow." Language matters. The way you describe your life shapes how you experience it. Words are not just reflections, they are directions. They guide your thoughts, emotions, and ultimately your actions. Speak like someone who is becoming who they're meant to be. During moments of adversity, self-talk becomes even more critical. That's when the inner critic tends to get loud. You might hear voices of doubt, fear, or shame saying things like, "You'll never make it," or "You're not strong enough." These voices often echo past experiences, old failures, early criticisms, childhood wounds. But just because a voice is loud doesn't mean it's right. Your job is not to believe every thought you think. Your job is to challenge the voice that wants to keep you small. You do that by speaking truth to yourself on purpose every single day. You won't always feel confident. You won't always be motivated, but you can always choose your words. That choice can shift your mindset in real time. Just one sentence, "I've handled worse," "I'm capable," "This will pass," can interrupt a spiral of negativity and help you regain control. Over time, these small verbal adjustments build a new mental framework. You begin to think more clearly, act more decisively, and bounce back more quickly. That is the power of self-talk. It's a tool you can use anytime, anywhere, to change your internal state. It's also important to practice grace with yourself. Not every thought will be perfect. Not every day will feel strong. But if your overall internal dialogue is filled with patience, encouragement, and belief, you'll create the emotional space to keep moving forward. Self-belief isn't about arrogance, it's about trust. It's the quiet confidence that says, even if I'm not there yet, I'm on my way. And that belief doesn't come from outside validation. It's built through daily repetition, effort, and the words you choose in your most private moments. No one else will hear your inner dialogue, but everyone around you will feel the effects of it. When you speak to yourself with strength and compassion, you show up in the world differently. You carry yourself with more calm, more clarity, more courage. You face challenges with more resilience because you're not relying on motivation. You're powered by conviction, and conviction comes from alignment. Your thoughts, words, and actions working together in the direction of growth. So pay attention to your self-talk, guard it, refine it. Speak to yourself as someone who is worth the effort, because you are. Your internal dialogue is not just noise, it's the foundation of your self-belief. And when your self-belief grows, there is no limit to how far you can go.